10 Most Ambitious TV Flops of the 1970s. There's something magical about the 1970s, a decade of big dreams, wild ideas, and TV producers who believed anything was possible. But behind the classics we remember, there were shows that reached too far, burned too bright, and vanished almost overnight. Today, we're unlocking the forgotten side of 70s television, the ambitious flops that promised the future, but never made it past the first season. Welcome to Remembering America, where lost shows, dusty reels, and vanished ideas come back to life. Let's rewind to the 70s, a time when networks gambled everything on projects that were bold, strange, and unforgettable. 1. Supertrain, 1979. The most expensive disaster of the 70s. Supertrain was supposed to be NBC's answer to the Love Boat, but bigger, faster, and more luxurious. Imagine a nuclear-powered train speeding across America with nightclubs, spas, fancy cabins, and futuristic tech. NBC poured millions into building massive sets, full-scale train models, and ambitious storylines. But despite the money and marketing, audiences never connected with the characters, and the huge budget turned it into a financial nightmare. Ratings collapsed instantly, and the show was pulled before the network could recover its losses. Supertrain is still remembered as one of the most spectacular failures in television history, a dream too big for its time. Supertrain wasn't just a show, it was the moment when TV tried to outrun its own limitations. Today, it stands as a reminder of how the 70s pushed boundaries long before technology was ready. 2. Holmes and Yo-Yo, 1976. The robot cop nobody took seriously. Holmes and Yo-Yo had a concept that felt ahead of its time, a human detective paired with a friendly humanoid robot who constantly malfunctioned. On paper, it aimed to mix comedy with futuristic ideas. But the execution was awkward, the humor felt forced, and audiences didn't know what to make of Yo-Yo's odd robotic behavior. The show tried to push a light-hearted sci-fi tone, but the effects were cheap, and the writing leaned too silly for viewers expecting a proper buddy cop series. Kids liked it, adults didn't, and critics destroyed it. After only a handful of episodes, ABC quietly canceled it, leaving behind one of the strangest concepts the 70s ever attempted. It tried to make the future feel friendly, even if audiences laughed for all the wrong reasons. Holmes and Yo-Yo remains a quirky relic of a decade experimenting with technology and humor. 3. Man from Atlantis, 1977. The aquatic hero that sunk fast. Starring Patrick Duffy, Man from Atlantis introduced viewers to Mark Harris, a mysterious man who could breathe underwater and survive ocean's extreme depths. The pilot drew huge curiosity, the idea felt fresh, and audiences were fascinated by a hero with no memory of his past. But once the weekly episodes began, problems surfaced. The underwater scenes were expensive to film, storylines felt repetitive, and ratings slipped quickly. The show couldn't balance action, mystery, and sci-fi the way it hoped to. Despite its ambition and creative concept, Man from Atlantis ended after one season, remembered today as a bold idea that simply didn't have the strength to stay afloat. For a moment, kids imagined a hero who didn't come from space, but from the deep unknown. Its legacy lives on as one of the 70s' boldest attempts at building a brand new kind of superhero. 4. The Fantastic Journey, 1977. Too complicated for 70s audiences. When a scientific expedition gets lost in the Bermuda Triangle and thrown into different times and dimensions, you'd expect excitement, and The Fantastic Journey truly aimed for that. Every episode threw viewers into new worlds, ancient civilizations, future societies, parallel realities. But the show jumped so quickly between plots that audiences struggled to follow what was going on. At a time when TV storytelling was simple, this series was too experimental. Production troubles, rewrites, and inconsistent tone made things worse. Critics called it confusing, and viewers stopped tuning in. After just 10 episodes, the ambitious concept collapsed, leaving behind only the memory of a show that reached too far ahead of its time. It was a puzzle too big for its time, but a treasure for fans who love strange, experimental sci-fi. Even today, its ambitious world-hopping concept feels like something decades ahead of its era. 5. Quark, 1978. Sci-fi comedy the world wasn't ready for. Created by Buck Henry, Quark tried to do something rare: blend space adventure with goofy comedy. Set aboard an intergalactic trash-collecting spaceship, the show made fun of Star Wars, Star Trek, and every sci-fi trope of the era. The humor was clever, but it was niche, too strange for mainstream viewers and too light-hearted for hard sci-fi fans. Some jokes landed brilliantly, others fell flat, and network executives weren't sure how to market it. Although it later gained a cult following, it failed to attract large audiences in 1978 and was cancelled after only 8 episodes. Quark remains a forgotten treasure, a show misunderstood in its own time. It dared to laugh at the universe when everyone else was trying to conquer it. In the end, Quark became a cult reminder that even wild ideas deserve a place in TV history. 6. The Immortal, 1970. A man with magic blood, and low ratings. The Immortal followed a man whose blood could cure disease and grant extended life, a premise packed with potential. The series combined sci-fi elements with a non-stop chase storyline, as corporations and powerful figures hunted him to use his miraculous blood. While the idea was intriguing, the execution felt repetitive. Every episode became a variation of the hero running from enemies, helping someone, and barely escaping. Audiences lost interest because the show didn't expand its mythos or deepen its mysteries. Despite a promising start, it failed to deliver the depth viewers expected, and the network ended it after 1 season, leaving a great concept without a lasting legacy. It carried a spark of brilliance that just never fully ignited on screen. Still, The Immortal remains a bold attempt at mixing philosophy, science, and 70s action. 7. Planet of the Apes, 1974 TV, a hit movie, a failed series. Riding the success of the groundbreaking film, the Planet of the Apes series had massive expectations. The world building, costumes, and makeup were impressive, but extremely expensive. Each episode required long production hours and heavy makeup budgets. The stories were meant to explore freedom, society, and rebellion, big themes for a weekly show. Unfortunately, the pacing was slow, the episodes felt repetitive, and audiences didn't stay interested. Ratings dropped fast, and the high cost made it impossible to continue. After only 14 episodes, CBS pulled the plug. Today, it's remembered as an ambitious attempt to expand a beloved universe that wasn't ready for TV. The heart was there, the talent was there, but the era simply wasn't ready for weekly sci-fi on this scale. Today, its short run feels like a lost chapter from a universe that deserved more. 8. The Starlost, 1973, a grand sci-fi vision destroyed by budget. The Starlost dreamed of delivering epic science fiction, humanity traveling through space on a giant generational ship, with isolated domes containing different cultures. But the production was a disaster from the start. Budgets were slashed, special effects were downgraded to cheap visuals, and scripts were rewritten without the creator's approval. The ambitious concept turned into a frustrating, low-quality experience. Actors struggled with clunky dialogue, sets looked unfinished, and even devoted sci-fi fans gave up. Despite all the imagination behind it, The Starlost became one of the biggest cautionary tales in TV history, reminding everyone that great ideas need great resources to truly shine. It showed us what happens when imagination collides with limited resources. The Starlost is still studied as the show that dreamed bigger than its budget ever allowed. 9. Logan's Run, 1977 TV, a future too expensive to build. Based on the popular film, the Logan's Run TV adaptation tried to expand its dystopian world with deeper stories and bigger adventures. But translating cinematic world building to a weekly TV budget was nearly impossible. Sets were reused constantly, special effects looked dated, and episodes couldn't match the scope audiences expected. The series struggled to capture the film's energy, and viewers felt disappointed rather than excited. Even though it had an interesting premise, life in a world where no one could live past 30, the storytelling felt uneven, and ratings declined. After 14 episodes, the show was cancelled, leaving behind a universe that never reached its full potential. It tried to keep the film's spark alive, but the weight of expectation was too heavy for 70s television. Even so, it remains a nostalgic reminder of how far TV sci-fi has evolved since. 10. Battlestar Galactica, 1978, loved by fans, killed by cost. The original Battlestar Galactica was epic. Massive space battles, advanced models, detailed costumes, and a sweeping storyline about humanity fleeing the deadly silence. Audiences loved it, and the show became an instant sensation. But behind the scenes, the cost per episode was enormous, far higher than most television budgets could sustain. ABC simply couldn't afford to keep producing it, despite its popularity. The show was cancelled after one season, shocking fans and leaving many storylines unfinished. Today, it's remembered not as a flop in quality, but as a victim of ambition. It proved the 70s were willing to dream big, sometimes too big. It proved that quality isn't always enough when ambition outruns affordability. Fans still look back at this version as the beautiful, expensive beginning of a legendary saga. Short call to action. If you love rediscovering forgotten TV history, hit like, subscribe, and tell us, which 70s flop should we uncover next?